Welcome back. The Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, has sent criminal referrals to the Justice Department for former Intelligence Community Inspector General Michael Atkinson and the whistleblower who helped initiate the first impeachment of President Trump back in 2019 over the president's phone call with Ukrainian President Zelensky. Joining me now in this Sunday Morning Futures exclusive is the U.S. Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, Harmeet Dhillon. And Harmeet, it's wonderful to have you this morning. We appreciate your time. I want to get your take on who really was behind that impeachment process for President Trump. But even more important, give us your sense of what you just heard me talk with Kash Patel about, and that is the failure of any accountability. Our audience knows exactly what happened with the Russia collusion story. No one has been held accountable. Why not?
Well, Maria, thanks for having me this morning. And I heard Kash's remarks. I agree with them. And, you know, your folks need to understand that when we start these investigations, it takes time. We have to interview a lot of witnesses. We don't want to do what the other side did, which is just jump to conclusions. And so we're building strong cases. And I think your viewers are probably familiar with the fact that some of the judges out there, particularly judges appointed more recently, have been, doing their own form of lawfare by simply denying the Trump administration's valid cases in court on numerous different cases. And so we've experienced that at the Department of Justice. And so we're trying different tacks. We're putting teams together. I'm personally involved in some of the issues that we've talked about. Like Kash, I can't talk about things prematurely before they come to a grand jury or before we're able to announce them. But I can assure you that the whole Department of Justice is very committed to this. And Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche is continuing the work started under the Attorney General Pam Bondi. And we will have news in the very near future on these issues. And there's so many issues, Maria, like you just mentioned, the Atkinson situation. I mean, we just saw the news come out in the last couple of days about the CIA's weaponization of the government and intelligence officials to concoct a fake narrative regarding the Hunter Biden laptop and sign on and lie to the American people. And they did that, many of them, on the government dime. And so there are some serious violations that may come out of that as well.
But do you feel that there, is pressure to get all of this done, for example, before the midterm elections? I mean, if the Republicans lose seats in the House, will these investigations get derailed?
I don't think so, Maria. So first of all, I mean, the election is important, of course, to all Americans, but we're going to continue our work regardless. I mean, the president has a 4-year mandate. The elections are not going to affect the dedication of the lawyers at the Department of Justice to see this through. We have a duty to do that. And frankly, if we don't do it, the American people are going to lose confidence in our elections. And that's very important to me as a civil rights lawyer who's in charge of the Voting Rights Act and all the voting issues in our country. If we don't have free and fair elections, including elections that are free from this kind of manipulation, weaponization, lying, cheating, and stealing that we have seen evidence of, I think it's very bad for our country. And I personally am here to make sure that we don't have that outcome. And all our colleagues who are political appointees at the DOJ at the high level are committed to it as well. Now, there are many cases where we've had lawyers burrowed in at the DOJ and in other agencies as well who are not with the team and, in fact, who participated in some of the bad acts in prior administrations. So part of what we've been doing this past year is house cleaning, and we've been doing that in a number of different ways. And I'm happy to share with you some of the things we found in house cleaning. At the DOJ, people have been burrowed in there for decades, doing political partisanship, and that's just not what we're supposed to be doing at the DOJ.
So what specific facts have you found? You just said there was lying and cheating. What can you tell us in terms of verifying that information? And I know you've been trying to go state by state to clean up voter rolls. What are you doing in that regard?
Yeah, so let's talk about that. We have a comprehensive effort. I've requested the voter rolls from all states in the District of Columbia. About a third of the states have voluntarily complied with us or reached settlements with us, and we've run some of those records, so I'll talk about that in a minute. I'm suing 29 states and the District of Columbia for their refusal to give us the voter rolls, to which the Attorney General or the Acting Attorney General is entitled under the Civil Rights Act of 1960. We're doing that to make sure that states are in compliance, and guess what? States are not in compliance, even those ones who want to. So for the ones that we've run so far, 60 million records that we've run, we found at least 350,000 dead people currently on the voter rolls in those jurisdictions. And we've referred approximately 25,000 people with no citizenship records to the to Homeland Security to look at, dig into that further and see the extent to which people voted. I'm in touch with voting rights activists who are showing me information about people who have voted who are not American citizens. And so the left told us this never happens and it's a myth. It definitely happened. Just recently, someone was indicted in Minnesota, of all places, for voting without being a citizen. And so I've sent a document request to them on that. Minnesota has a weird vouching law that allows citizens to vouch for each other's citizenship. That's crazy and inconsistent with the Help America Vote Act. And we're not going to rest until we complete this project. Now, Maria, your audience would like to know perhaps that 5 states have actually had judges, federal judges, rule against us in this very simple request to get the voter rolls. It's such a basic voting hygiene concept in the 9th Circuit, in the 6th Circuit in Michigan, and just recently Rhode Island last week. And so we're expediting the appeals in these cases. There'll be an appeal in the 9th Circuit and the 6th Circuit soon.
Yeah. Harmeet, you are doing incredibly important work. I want to please invite you back to continue sharing with us your work as it becomes available. We so appreciate your time. Thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.